So here we go. The body is on the chassis again with the Mercury Mountaineer wheels, the 18 by 7.5s. Um, Actually, everything fit really well. I did have to go with the Ford Explorer rear axle and a couple of spacers in the back, a couple 1.5-inch spacers. But the front's tucked nicely underneath the fender. And the cross member works very well with the body. Just have to trim a little aluminum on the inner fenders. So here's some pictures of the shackles I got on eBay. They were lowering shackles for a 56 Ford. They give you the rear and then they give you the fixed mount in the front to replace the pin style. There's a Ford Explorer rear axle. Fits nicely underneath. Just a few shots of how things fit under here. And there's our dash. Be updating that. A bunch of switches and knobs. It's pretty funny actually. And here's where the engine's supposed to sit. The only thing I see that might be a problem is the oil pan with that large Crown Vic cross member. I'll have to do some more mocking up and see how that's going to fit in there. So it just changes things up here. I'm going to go with a 91 Chevy Astrovan all-wheel drive front suspension assembly. This transfer case you can swap out to a selectable four-wheel drive out of an S10 pickup, which is an MP300C, I believe. Also, the front differential you could swap out with an S10 pickup truck. The location and configuration of the steering box is much better. This steering box lands just south of where the steering column comes out of the firewall. If I was going to use the Ford Crown Vic front suspension, the rack is actually behind the firewall. So I'd have to come up with some interesting angles there. This track width is also narrower. I will need to use spacers, but it still will give me 1 inch on each side. It still has disc brakes in the front, and it's got a truck steering setup. So heavy sway bar, and it's got that not quite rack and pinion, but it's a truck steering setup. Another good thing about this setup is it's all GM. So putting an LS in this frame will be a lot easier. I'll have to raise the engine up a little bit more, but it'll fit. So have a look at the frame here without the engine and transmission. You can see the front diff. And then we'll get a closer look at the steering box where it faces straight up. And now even the narrowest part of this up front in this frame section, it's a little narrower than the Ford chassis. So it'll come in right where it dives to the narrow spot. So it'll come in pretty well with the grafting. The Astrovan's got a gross vehicle weight of I think around 6,000 pounds, and that's what this step van had. Gross vehicle weight about 6,500 pounds. So I think it'll be stout enough for what I'm going to use this van for. And this has torsion bars for the front end. This will allow me to raise and lower the vehicle rather easily. You probably get about 1 inch or 2 out of a suspension in the front. So here's my S10/S15 front differential, 373 gear ratio. This will work with my Ford Explorer 373 rear axle. So this is a direct bolt into the all-wheel drive front suspension of the Safari van. The only difference between the early Safaris and the later Safaris is the early Safaris had a hub style CV and the later ones had a slip-in style CV. You can convert this front suspension, this front differential assembly over either way. It can go hub or it can go CV style. The other good thing about this thing here is it's got a collar that's on a cable, and it allows you to separate the front tires from each other, so the driver and passenger can move independently without any friction inside the differential. I don't know if it improves gas mileage at all. I've heard it's nominal, but it is an option. You could just put it on your dash and pull the cable out to engage and disengage your driver and passenger side tires. So here's the factory transmission for the Astrovan and the transfer case. I've been told this transfer case is the all-wheel drive transfer case they use in the Chevy Cyclone and Typhoons. I'll be swapping this transmission out with a 4L60. So as this project progresses, um, once I get into the welding shop, I'll be taking more videos of the process on grafting the F100 chassis to the Astrovan chassis. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. So stay tuned and thanks for watching, guys.